let's learn how to do the polyrhythm. Now, the polyrhythm is a really beautiful part of this piece. It's one of the defining characteristics that make this piece particularly beautiful and interesting. What a polyrhythm is when you've got two different rhythms being played at the same time. So the right hand, you'll notice, is doing 3/8 notes or 3 quavers, and they're repeating that phrase. But in the left hand, it's like a bit of a fraction thing. So the right hand's doing 3 notes, but the left hand is only doing 2 notes. That's what that little 2 here is above these 8th notes. It's basically fitting in 2 notes that ordinarily would be 3 notes. It sounds really complicated, but it's actually pretty easy to play. And so what happens is when you get this shape in bar 1, a couple different ways of approaching this. It's good to maybe sometimes like tap it out on your lap first. One way of doing it is like this. You can go 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. What happens is this. I mean, the right hand is easy because you've just got 3. The left hand, the first note is easy because that just comes in on the first beat. 2, 3. If we're just leaving out the second left hand chord each time. But what happens is that second left hand chord comes in halfway between the second and third notes in the right hand. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. All right? Another way of thinking about it could be together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. Okay, that's another way of thinking about it. Together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. Another one that I learned a long time ago when I was studying music is nice cup of tea. Nice cup of tea. Together, right, left, right. Whichever one you prefer. This is a polyrhythm. If I do it a bit faster. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Nice cup of tea. Nice cup of tea. Together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. Learn that polyrhythm. It's pretty fun. All right, let's do this in context of the tune. All right, so we've got our lovely chord here. Now, let's work on this arpeggiated right hand. Okay, when you're doing an arpeggio, it's playing different notes in a row like that. Here's how we do it. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. Okay, just try it one more time. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Alright, that's the first bar. From here, you're basically ready to go through the piece now that we've learnt this polyrhythm. We're going to move on to bar 2 now. Left hand comes up to the AA. 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Left hand goes down by 2. Right hand down by 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. Left hand down by 1. 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2. Both hands up by 1. 1 and 2 and 3. Bar 5. 1 and 2 and 3. And 1 and 2 and 3. Now up to bar 6. Same as bar 2. 1 and 2 and 3. And 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 1. It's following the same riff. Bar 7 is the same as bar 3. Bar 8, as you know, is the same as bar 4. Left hand just goes down by 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. Both hands are going to go down by 1 coming up. Watch out for that B flat. And right hand further away from yourself. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and left hand's going up to the G now. Right hand B natural. 1 and 2. Now what happens here is it does it twice with the F at the top, then twice with the G at the top. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3, then twice with the F at the top again. 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and let's go from bar 10 again. So it's going to be 2 Fs, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and then 2 Gs. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3, 2 Fs, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, 3 and. Alright, nice. Cool, so that's the riff. Sounds pretty cool. A bit faster. 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2. Back to the AA, left hand. Right hand down by 1, left hand down by 2. Left hand down by 1. Both hands going to going up by 1, coming up. Bar 5. There it is. Back to the beginning of riff, bar 6. Right hand down by 1, left hand down by 2. 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3. Left hand down by 1. Nice cup of tea, nice cup of tea. Both hands go down by 1. Get that B flat in there. 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Left hand goes up to the G. Right hand with that B natural. 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. I'm really feeling at this point. I'm not really counting it. Beautiful. Nice. Sounds great. So, that's the first page. We're going to go through a few little bonus tips before we